Everybody got a podcast. Hello, Miss Amores. How are we feeling today? It is a beautiful day in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, per usual. And today we're going to have a blast. Now, before I get started, y'all, let me make sure that things are streaming where they are supposed to be streaming because tech is wonderful until it isn't. And we are. Everything looks good. And we love this for us. Okay, so today I'm very excited because we're going to be chatting with one of my iconic clients, and we're going to be having a conversation about what it really takes to experience emotional growth. What goes into that process? How does it feel to go through that process? What kind of things do we want to be aware of and look at when we are experiencing that process? And how do we want to show up to that process too? Because to be honest, that's one of the biggest challenges that most of us experience. So today I'm going to be sitting down with one of my iconic clients. This is actually like my first client ever, y'all. And she still loves me. She still and I co-creating magic together all these years later. And I'm excited for you all to be a part of this. Look at my camera, doing the most right now. If we are meeting for the first time, my name is Janori Pouncil, and I am a spiritual teacher. I am a guiding light for beings that are really committed to being the best version of themselves and treating themselves with compassion and love throughout that process. And I've been in this path for over a decade now, and I'm super passionate about it because it has completely transformed my own life and the lives of the people that are around me. So I dedicate myself to working with leaders, working with really people that desire to be the best version of themselves, which often happen to be leaders, often happen to be called high achievers, to support them in this journey because I know how important it is for us to grow and to thrive and to live a life of joy. So that's why I dedicate myself to this work. And as you're listening, you may be thinking like, yo, I want to work with Nori. Like this could be a vibe. Then I would like to invite you to click on the link below this video or above this video right now and book a self-trust mastery level up session with me. We are currently enrolling for the 2024 year. So if you are desiring to up level your emotional growth in 2024, then come through and play with me because you're going to have a great time. It's going to be fun and we're going to grow and heal together. You feel me? So this is a good time for you to grab your journals, grab your water bottles so that you are able to receive what we're going to share with you today and you stay hydrated because, the body got to stay good. Now, before I bring this amazing person on so she can introduce herself, I want to tell you why we do these conversations. Two reasons. The first reason is because I love to see my clients reflect on their journey, reflect on how far they've come, and to see themselves from this different light. It is always a lot of fun because most people don't take the time to pause and reflect on themselves, and because they're constantly doing that, they can see their growth and see how much they've collapsed the time in their growth with a greater level of ease. The second reason why we do these conversations is because it's a great way for you to see what's possible when it comes to spiritual care, when it comes to emotional well-being. Oftentimes we feel like we gotta wait. Oftentimes we feel like we don't have space for that. And when you see how people create space for that, you get to begin to feel more inspired to create space for that in your own life. And that's why we have this combos, y'all. So without further ado, I'm bringing her on, ladies and gentlemen. Purr, 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 purr. Crystal, the icon in the building. Purr, 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 purr. I need a sound thing. Purr, 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 purr.
Oh, please don't get a soundboard. Oh, no.
You can tell
Actually,
me
that
to
would
be
be pretty
doing that
cool.
too.
Whenever Sage does something, look at her
You're just
go.
gonna put like press the sound bar and you're like purr, 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 purr. He would be the one president all day long.
Yeah,
Okay, Chris,
yeah.
introduce yourself to the people. Tell them a little about who you are and what brought you to Nori's world.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Crystal, and I apologize in advance if you hear my dog in the background. That is a dog. He has a little bit of allergies and it's hacking. Um, so, like Nori said, her and I go way back. Um, I knew of Nori when we were in college, undergrad, but we didn't really get to know each other until we were adults. I followed her on Facebook for a very long time, especially when she was going through her healthy journey. And I always admired, all the things that she was doing around healthy eating and exercising. So I started following her content then. And then she started working with, or she designing programs for around self trust. And I was at a point in my life where I was like, you know what? I'm tired of traditional therapy. I think I want to try something different. I've seen what Nori's been doing and how she's really changed her life around. And I think I want to work with her. So, and that is how I ended up part of Nori's world. And it's been several years of us working together, and it's been a delight because I've seen so much growth in myself over that time, and what sh- she brings to the table and then what she teaches applies at every stage in my life as I continue to grow.
Thank you, Crystal, with the tea. First of all, I can't believe how long we've been together. You're like my longest coaching relationship.
Yeah.
And I love that for us. And I'm so glad that you continue to show up for yourself in this way, because there are so many modalities when it comes to healing, and there are so many ways to approach our own journey. And to have seen you over these years really grow and give yourself an opportunity to be uncomfortable on your own behalf and to face things around conflict. And we're going to get into all of those things in a little bit, y'all. But this is really like one of the most beautiful things that we can experience, is seeing how other people have grown and what led them to that growth in the first place. So, on my camera, you see what's happening. I can't control this. This is literally surrender in full display, because he just does this on his own. I don't know, but we're gonna ride with it. We're gonna ride with it. So, Crystal, let's just jump into some questions I have for you, because I want to really paint a picture to folks as to what this past year has been like for you. You share with me some takeaways you've had for the past year working, being in a part of society, and I really wanted to like from you, like, where were you at the beginning of this journey last year when you were like, all right, I'm gonna get back in the streets, in the society, see what's going on. Like, what was going on with you?
Okay, so last year, you have to think of last year was a great year for me. It was a transition year. A lot of shedding happened during that year. And when I came back to the society, I had already restarted my personal journey into self growth. So I had took a lot of the things that I learned from working with you before, and I had the time and the space to implement it. So then when I came back into the society, I felt like I had a lot of momentum. And, I finally overcame some roadblocks, and I started journaling, meditating, um, making diet and lifestyle changes. So I came back to the society in a really good place, had a lot of momentum, and I just wanted to take, again, what I learned and the community and use that to elevate myself even more.
Hmm. Hmm. Awesome. So you come back to the society. What prompted you to make that decision? Because you said you were having a great year, you were feeling really equipped. And most people, this is a time when they'll be like, I don't need support. I'm good. Let me just do this on my own. And you made a decision to rejoin the society and give yourself a year of support. What prompted you to make that decision in a time when most people would be like, oh, I'm good?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't touch on that. That's a great point. So I felt like I was in a good space because I surrounded myself with um, various coaches and connected with different communities and other people. So it wasn't. I fully recognized that I didn't get there on my own, and I recognize the value of having that little bit of push or and guiding light, as you say you are, by surrounding myself by the people who could help me go a lot further in my journey.
Hmm.
So while I was feeling good and um, doing great, I wanted to go even further. And I knew having that support would help me go longer or further in my journey.
Mhm. Mm. Thank you for sharing that and speaking to that part too. Do you have any discomfort? Like what came up when you were making that decision? Like did anything came up around any resistance making this decision for you? Did you experience any of that?
Um, not not really. I not making the decision to get plugged into another community. I didn't have that much resistance, and I'm familiar with the self trust system, so I knew it was a place that I would enjoy being. Um, Now, we may get to this later on, or if you may want me to touch on this now, but there was a different experience after I got plugged in where I took a I had to take a look around me and it's like, oh my God, I'm doing a lot of things.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. Yes, talk
eventually
about that now.
yeah, okay. So I did have to scale back in some other activities. Um,
Mhm.
and that's when I learned, there is such a thing as being plugged into too many communities or having too many coaches because you are everybody, you know, good in what they do. People are going to stretch you.
Mhm.
And so there's only so much that you can take on before you become too stretched. So yes, while you want to get plugged into things, you do have to be mindful of your capacity and
Mhm.
um, maybe stick to a couple of groups or a couple of coaches, but don't try to do it all at once.
Mhm. Mhm. Talk a little bit about more about that because I feel like oftentimes when we are used to overflowing ourselves with support or we like I want to get there as fast as possible so everybody line up get information and give me all the tea to get me there yesterday, it can be challenging to make a decision around which things stay and which things go. And we've actually seen some of that happen in the society where some people have made decision or are like, okay, I'm gonna take a step back because of where I am with some things. What about for you? Like, how did you make that decision about this is where I want to stay plugged into versus these are the things I'm gonna choose to step away from?
Mhm. So that is a good question. And for me, I didn't sit down and come up with a game plan. I think it all just kind of came natural. And I'll give an example from a different. Um, 'Cause I think at the height of it, I was involved in 3 different communities.
Mhm.
Um, and some of them, they'll naturally, um, start to take on, a shape that may not be aligned with what you, um, what you had originally wanted. And so for me, I had to keep coming back to, okay, why did I join this community or group, or why did I decide to start working with this person? And is what we're doing now serving or addressing what I had a purpose that I had originally um, well, the reason why I had originally decided to join, and that may not be the case. Like the group, the community, or the coach may be going in a different direction, and then you have to be okay with, all right, this is morphing into something that I did not set out to originally do. And so I'm going to reel it in and keep doing the activities that are um, best aligning with my goals and the time that I have set aside to do these things. I don't want to be stretched and I don't want this to turn into I'm doing this to please somebody else or I'm doing this to fulfill somebody else's vision. I always have to take it back of like, what was my original reasons for joining or what did I need to get out of this? And stay with that.
Mhm. Mm. Thank you for touching on that because oftentimes I feel like when we are in the process of healing and we have an attachment to speed and an attachment to a certain timeline and attachment to certain outcomes, that can get lost. And it can be really easy for us to not have that awareness to see, I'm not even doing this because it's in alignment with me. I'm doing this because I don't want to disappoint this person or because I don't want to be seen in a certain way or because in some shape or form, I'm desiring this type of external validation, right? So I feel like that definitely speaks to your ability to be present and to be in a space where you can spot those patterns and see them for what they are and choose to move differently. How has it been arriving to that place? Has it always been like this for you?
No, no, it has not. Um, spotting patterns it's a definitely a skill that I developed in working with you. Um, but yeah, it hasn't been easy, or in past years it wasn't easy because I was, you know, consumed with what other people thought of me, and or obsessed with uh, what other people say that I should be doing.
Mhm.
And in past years, the goals that I had, or the things that I wanted to achieve, a lot of it was based off of what other people were telling me.
Mhm.
Um, so to get to the point where, I'm going to do things that I enjoy, that serve that are in my best interest, that took a lot of work for sure.
Mhm. Mhm. I'm so glad you're transparent about that because I feel like people often think that it's going to happen overnight, and there's this expectation that, well, I've been self-aware for 5 minutes, like how come I am still dealing with this or still dealing with that? And that is just a reflection of the type of commitment that it takes to do this. And one of the things that I love about the society is that it's not about what I want y'all to do. It's about what you want to do and what is standing in the way of your ability to do that. And it's that return to self, that return to what is bringing you joy. Where do you want to take your own talents? What does that look like for you? And that is something that, in my experience, isn't always how some other places lead or how things are, focused on. And it's one of the things that I love about the space that we're co-creating because it's all about returning to the self. How has that been for you, being in a space that's constantly re-sending you back to yourself and realigning you back to yourself? Because people think that that joint is mad easy, but like, what has that really been like to be in a container where you're constantly being in alignment with your authenticity and being in alignment with what lights you up, and you being the one that's leading that charge? Like, what is that like?
It's it's an experience for sure. It's and that's one of the reasons why I loved working with you in the society, because I'm pretty sure I've said this before. Thank you for being you. Like, you have not switched it up. The self trust is, you have not switched it up. It has been what it's been. And it's interesting, like being in a society, I feel like people go through these cycles. Like, yeah, sometimes we're really good, we're on it, but then
Mhm.
other times we're like struggling with things, and then you see other people doing it and you're like, oh no, but I'm failing. But then other people will come and be like, no, the fact that you're acknowledging it and you're with it, it's this, it constantly flows. Like,
Yeah.
it's a process. Nobody is perfect. We see the ups and downs, everybody going through ups and downs, but being able to be transparent about it, um, is key. Having those people, being surrounded by those who go through the same ups and downs that you go through, that's another key. um, Being constantly immersed in this environment that's pushing you to be a better version of yourself is key. It keeps you accountable, because you're going to notice when you're slacking. You notice it. Yeah, and it's always going to call you back to,
Mhm.
okay, I need to realign, I need to
Mhm.
refocus. So there's that built-in accountability. Even if you don't have somebody calling you out, the fact that you see it playing out, like, it, you start to hold yourself accountable,
Mhm.
because like, inside of my mind, I know I could be doing more, or I could be doing better, or I could get back to the place where I was.
Yeah.
The constant reminder that of to do better, to trust yourself, to have grace, forgive yourself, is key
Mhm.
to helping you make it further in your journey.
Mm. I told you, Crystal's gonna come with the gems for y'all. Like, If you take everything she just shared right now and you applied it, your life will transform. You don't have to come to the society to apply these things. You can take them with you and put them to test. And I tell y'all this all the time. Don't take my word for it. Like test it. Go do the thing. See how it feels. See how it shows up for you, and then make a decision from there. And I feel like that is what's powerful about this community that we have co-created, is that it's really based on, we want to see everybody win at being the most authentic version of themselves. It's not about becoming something you're not, it's allowing who you are to shine and to be a light for the people around you. So, which is a great actual segue to how have you transformed in the last year, and how has that impacted the people around you? Because it's not just about us, it's a lot about us, but it's also about how our changes others. So talk to us about
Mm.
that. What has that been like?
Let's see some of the things in the past year. I mentioned earlier that, last year it was this, there was a lot of shedding that went on. Um, shedding old habits, shedding people. um, there were a lot of work around boundaries, um, a lot of practicing gratitude and self forgiveness. And um, those are things, again, like Nori's mentioned, it's not overnight. Like these are things that you practice over and over again, because you may hit a rough patch where you struggle in one of these areas. But overall, the past year, I feel like I've seen so much growth emotionally as I let go of a lot of trying to control things that are outside of me. Especially with trying to control people's opinions of me or how people treat me. Um, I spent so much energy trying to control those things, but I had to learn how to let go of it. I had to understand that my boundaries were about my behavior instead of controlling other people's behavior. So in the past year of doing these things and practicing, gratitude and self forgiveness, I've noticed that I'm not burdened by resentment anymore. Well, I'm not going to say anymore. I'm not burdened by resentment. That was something that I struggled with for a long time. Resentment either towards myself because I did something wrong or I didn't do something, or resentment towards other people because of they treated me that a certain way. But um, just in this past year of growth, I'm able to accept, you know, people for who they are. Um, they come who they are. I can't control that. And I'm able to accept where I am and meet myself where I am, as Nori always says, instead of constantly beating myself up for not being in a certain place. Like I've worked on this. Why do I still have to work on this? Those are things that are not plaguing me um, in this past year.
Mm, I love that. And I love the reflection around they aren't plaguing you anymore. Because these are things that honestly, Crystal, like people don't realize how much they impact our well-being. They don't realize how much is challenging, how challenging it is to interact with people when you feel resentful towards them. And how challenging it is to meet them where they are and to meet ourselves where we are when we are resentful towards ourselves. So I actually would like for you to talk a little bit about what has it been like to shift that, to go from I'm quote unquote still dealing with this to I am meeting myself where I am. Like I use that term, I use that a lot, but I want you to share with people like what does that mean to you and how has it looked like for you to meet yourself where you are?
Mm, okay. Let's see. How do I want to answer this? For me to meet myself where I am. Um, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but then I'm like, I do have a story.
You just have a
Well,
story.
well, I mean, a good example is, again, I've noticed so much growth. Um, and at the same time, I also hit a rough patch this year.
Mhm.
Um, and I noticed with this rough patch, I semi defaulted to one of my trauma coping mechanisms. Um,
Mm,
and, I was acting a certain way.
mhm,
In the past, I think I would have gotten my head and really judged myself harshly, talked to myself really harshly. I would have sat in that and been sad, for going through what I was going through and resenting how I was acting,
mm,
um, or how I was dealing with it.
mhm,
But
mhm,
now I've given myself a lot of grace, and
mm,
I could separate, myself. I can see myself going through this rough patch.
mm,
And what's going to help me is to not judge, but to continue to the best of my ability to do the things, the habits of the
mhm,
journaling, meditating, get out, take a walk, surround myself with loved ones. I could continue to do these things, still feel a little, I'm in that rough patch, but I'm still acting in
mhm,
the way that I want to when I get out of this rough patch. And I could be okay with that. I'm
mhm.
okay, and I accept the fact that I'm going through something. It's fine that I'm going through something. We all go through stuff. I don't need to beat
Yes.
myself up from going through stuff. But
Yes.
to the best of my ability, I'm going to support myself while I'm going through this rough patch. And
Mhm.
that is me meeting myself where I am. I
Yeah.
can't
Ooh.
speed myself through it. I could just support myself through it.
Ooh. I love that. I can't speed my way through it. I can just support my way through it. She came with the bars, y'all. She came with the bars for y'all today. like I have goosebumps of how much like hearing you, and I just remember where you were when we first began this journey in 2018, and to hear this gentleness, this love, this compassion in your voice towards yourself. Like, this is what it's all about. It's like, yeah, life is gonna life. There are some things I'm not gonna like about it. And that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with it. It doesn't mean that it needs to be fixed. We literally were just talking about this during the call on Thursday, on Tuesday. And I'm so in awe of you and your continued decision to move through this process, because it's an uncomfortable process. It's a very joyful process too. And I want to talk a little bit about that. But it's also an uncomfortable process, y'all. So, Crystal, the next thing I want you to sit with is, what has brought you the most joy in your journey this past year? What are some of the things that being in a society has helped you uncover that brought you a lot of joy this year? So while you sit with that, I'm gonna share something with y'all. Listen, what Crystal is sharing with you, it's like real time what it's like to heal and to go through the healing process. And you're listening to her share your story, and you may be thinking to yourself, like, I would like that. I would like to, stop being in my head about things. I want to be feeling less burdensome. I want to feel less resentful. I desire to be more in alignment with self forgiveness. And I do want to be better. I want to be better for myself. I want to be better because I care about myself, and because I know that there is goodness out there for me that I am desiring to enjoy. And if that's you, I would love to invite you to apply for a self trust mastery level obsession, where you and I can sit down and discuss our alignment together. This is going to be a beautiful conversation. And if you are in alignment with us, you will be able to join our 2024 cohort for the Self Trust Society, which we're currently enrolling for right now. It's going to be a really amazing opportunity for you to experience the things that Crystal has talked about, and for you to see what it's like and how do they manifest in your own life. And when you begin to be surrounded by this energy, you can unsee it. You can unsee love. You can unsee grace. You can unsee compassion. You can unsee joy. And that's what I desire more for you, because I know what's possible and I know how it has changed my life. I see how it changes Crystal's life. And she's only one of the clients that we are serving right now. So I want to invite you to book a call with us and to explore our alignment so that we can help you grow emotionally in 2024, especially if that's what's on your bingo card for 2024. I've been saying bingo card a lot. I don't even know where I got that from because I don't even play bingo like that. But click on the link, get with the vibes, and let's make 2024 an amazing healing year for you. Crystal, I'm bringing you back. That was a cute little. You like my little director cut?
Yeah, I like this. Yeah, I do. I do. I may have to look up this website when I'm done. But
I'll put you on. I will put you on. I will put you on. Let's talk about what has been joyful because sometimes healing can get a little dark. It can get a little sad. It can get a little, and there's also a lot of joy. And this year, we've really focused on bringing more of that joy to the society. So I want to hear from you. What are some of the joyful things that you have been able to uncover this year as a result of being part of the space?
okay, joyful things. And I was actually thinking about this during my lunch break. Um, let's see, how do I want to answer this? Joyful things. What has brought me joy? I'm gonna sound so cliche. I'm gonna sound so cliche. Um, well, first off, what brings me joy, and what I think brings everybody in the society joy is just seeing how far we've come. At any moment, in any of the discussions that we have on a bi-weekly basis, somebody's going through something, and then even by the end of the call, they're like, you know what? I thought, I wasn't doing so great with this, but now I've come to see that I've actually been taking steps to do this, and I'm acting differently from how I would have acted, from old me, and I see the growth. So that alone, I think, brings a lot of us joy. Just having this time to meet, and like I told one of the other community members not too long ago, we don't always sit back, when we're at home by ourselves. We're not always going through our journals. If we journal, we're not always going back to read our progression over the past month, 6 months, year. So when you're in the community, you have other people around you who are able to, are a sounding board or help you to reflect, if you don't have that process of reflecting. So I think that is definitely a source of joy. Another thing in the past, and I'm learning this. I'm learning this. I think it's finally sticking in me, to me, in my brain. The gratitude is a source of joy. And I can look back at the past 12 months. I do the same things every year. I go on trips, I meet up, go visit my friends and family. I can do all of these really cool activities and then, in DC, Maryland, doing all these things that people from the outside are looking at me and like, oh wow, she does some really awesome fun stuff, you know. But I can tell you right now, there's a difference into how I enjoy those things. So when I'm in a period of my life where I'm practicing gratitude and self-forgiveness, I enjoy those external activities better. But when I'm in a period where, let's say, I'm not really grateful for what I have or what's going on in my life, or I may be judging myself a little bit. These external activities, I'm checked out. It doesn't matter. I could have planned the perfect trip somewhere, but I bet you I'm not enjoying myself. I don't have joy in my life. The joy is that I experience, it comes from this underlying sense of gratitude that I have for the things around me, for the people in my life. And once I have that, then all this external stuff is just extra. So I think I've answered your question. You know, cliche as it sounds, gratitude is my biggest source of joy. And there's been signs from the universe lately that have been telling me that what's going to help you right now, Crystal, is to really get back into practicing gratitude. And that
Mm.
way, all this other stuff that you're doing, if it's something unpleasant that you have to do, you won't be so grumpy about it.
Mhm.
Or if it's
Mhm.
something that you love to do in the past and you want to keep doing it, coming in with that mindset of just being grateful,
Mhm.
you'll find even more joy coming out of that. So
Mm.
that is my
I
advice.
love it. And I love the honesty of it all, y'all, because that's what happens when you join the society. You just start to see like it really is those things. It really is gratitude. It really is feeling at peace with myself. It really is making decisions from a grounded space. Those are the things that plant the seeds where joy grows from, like where that bear the fruit of joy. It's like those are those things because we are at peace with ourselves. I want to hear from you about you talked about enjoying things more when you are in a more joyful space and allowing that allows you to like really sit in it, being grateful for those things. How has that impacted how you show up as a parent and how you show up in your career and with your friends?
Okay. Well, I always got to start with the parent stuff. I mean, that's the easiest one. I mean, the simplest thing. It goes back to all I want is a healthy baby, or I'm grateful that I have a healthy baby, a
Mhm.
healthy child, you know. As much attitude as I am given some days, I am grateful that I have a healthy daughter, um, who has a sense of humor, like her mama. And when I look at her through that lens,
Mhm.
I am more patient
Mm.
and forgiving. Um, and that's what's really important, especially in the parent-child relationship, because I could sit here and be disappointed if she doesn't make all straight A's, and I could let that be something that forms a wedge between us, or something that looms over my head and then causes disappointment, or me to feel disappointment. Or I could
Mhm.
be grateful that my child is different from I am, from the way
Mhm.
from me. And my
Mhm.
child learns a little differently, or my child enjoys things that are different from
Mhm.
me, and she's her own person. Um, and that's similar to, that appreciation for who she is as a person, then allows our relationship to be better. And that
Mhm.
is also true with friendships. Um, and especially when the older you get, um, people, your friends, you may have chosen them, and you may be growing in one direction. So, what are you going to do if they're not growing in the same direction? Are you going to judge them? Are you going to try to force them to change? Or if you decide to keep them in your life, well, you just accept them for who they are and love them anyway. Um, yeah, it's when you accept people, it's that creates peace. You're at peace instead of always trying to fight them over who they are. Um, and then when it comes to the career, and it's you know, I there's a lot of things that we can't control, especially if we're working in corporate or government. Um, but you you can control yourself. You can decide to change your environment. But just sitting there and worrying about things that you're not supposed to worry about, or or not being, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here, but they're just overall, it just brings more peace into your life when you let go of some of these things that you're trying to control.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing and for being really honest about what this is like. And I know I've said this before in this conversation, but I just know how challenging that is for us sometimes to see ourselves in this light and then to shine that light and put a spotlight on it and share it with others, right? Like most of us shy away from that because it is a discomfort that's associated with it. And there's also a lot of joy in it too, in seeing, you know what, I do that. I be talking to people that do that, but I do that too. And maybe not, maybe next time I won't be as harsh about it because I know that I show up in that way. So it's just really beautiful to see it. And I really it's my desire that those of you that are watching, I know there's a few people that have been watching, like that you're taking that away from this conversation, that you can choose how you're going to show up in situations and that it may not happen overnight in the exact way that you want it to happen. And at the same time, when you continue trusting this process, when you continue being willing to prioritize yourself and to put your inner peace first and to let other people be who they are and to implement boundaries and accept boundaries from others, because we good at being like, don't do this, but when people tell us don't do this, we be like, oh, how you gonna tell me what I'm gonna do or not do? This is what that journey is like, y'all. Like the healing journey has opportunity for everything, for growth, for joy, for release, for forgiveness, for surrender. And when we know that, it just takes a whole different life. So Crystal, can you believe it's been 40 minutes already? I feel like, you know me, I can sit with you for hours, especially because of how much, we've gotten a chance to connect with each other. And I want you to talk a little bit, before we get ready to wrap, y'all, I want you to talk a little bit, Crystal, about what has it taken from you? Like what are some of those things you've been willing to put down? We've been talking about surrender in the society this month. What has been some of the things that you've been willing to surrender to create space for this version of yourself, for her to shine? What have been some of those things you've been willing to let go of?
Mm, well, let's see. The most tangible thing is physical people, right? Relationships. Some relationships I did have to let go of. Um, but when I look internally, the things that I had to let go of, uh, well, it sounds weird saying let go of or really shedding, but like this negative thought pattern and the negative voice in my head that was always either condemning or judging me. And it's funny to say, I let go of that. But I think this like negative view of ourselves is a source, it can be a source of comfort, especially, before you go through all the healing. It's a source of comfort because it's kind of like this confirmation bias. Like, oh yeah, I'm telling myself I'm not ish and I'm living up to this expectation and I'm comfortable with that. Um, but you but to let go of these negative thought patterns, this negative self-talk, it can be uncomfortable because now you're holding yourself to a higher standard and you are now having to practice, forgiveness and love yourself unconditionally. And these are things that you may not have done before. So it's uncomfortable to let go of that negative view of yourself. But
Mhm.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that because those are uncomfortable things to release. And they're part of the process. Is how we create space for the joy, for the gratitude, for the appreciation, is by releasing some of these things that a lot of us we have been learned that those things are part of our identity. We have learned like, yo, this is how you talk to yourself. And if you're not talking to yourself, something is wrong with you about this. And when we begin to change and explore this other side of being and ground ourselves in our spirituality, we begin to notice that no, I can allow more love. I can be willing to receive more love from myself to myself. And I can do it by not believing those stories and not choosing to listen to those voices in our mind. And this is something that you and I have talked about at length because it's something that I've also experienced and I share with you as I am growing in my own journey. They show up again. Like these are not the type of thing where it's like, oh, I did it once, tucked it away, it's done for
Mhm.
good. This is at every level you're going to identify things that are going to stretch you, You're going to identify things that are going to be called to be released and to let go. There are relationships that are going to take a different, operation or take a different life, and it's not going to be the same. And that's why being able to do that over and over again is such an important part of our healing journey. And I feel like
Mhm.
that's what the society helps remind us. It's like, hey, we're constantly going in this journey, and it doesn't matter how much you are ascending in your journey, you are going to be called to look at these parts of the journey at every step of the journey. And it becomes a lot more joyful. At least that has been my experience. That because I know that, I'm not like with an attitude when it's shedding season, or I'm not with an attitude when it's time to, discover things about myself. I'm looking forward to those things because I'm like, okay, well, this is what I'm focused on right now versus, oh, I got to do this right now, that type of energy. At least that has been my experience.
Yeah, yeah, and another thing that I left out was, well, I wanna say the to-do list, but, especially if you follow people on social media, and you're inundated with all this information of, like, "You need to do this, this, and that. This
Mhm,
is how you solve problems," or, "This is how you achieve freedom." So then you adopt that, and you're like, "Okay, I have to do this, that, this, and
mhm,
third," and it becomes, a form of a way that you try to fast track through the process.
mhm,
Um, so letting go of that, or the need, that you have to do certain things,
mhm,
or your process has to follow certain steps, makes a lot of space for yourself. And
mhm,
also allows you to trust yourself as well, because you know what? I'm going to create my own map. I'm going to follow my path and do the things that I feel like
mhm,
are really serving me, instead of this checklist that a billion people on Instagram are telling me that I need to do. Um,
mhm,
so that frees up a lot of space for
mhm.
you as well.
I'm glad you brought up the checklist. I told y'all last month that I basically scraped my whole calendar and completely cleaned it up from a bunch of things I had put on there because I thought they were quote unquote needed. And now I feel like I can breathe in a different way. I feel like I can breathe because when everything in the calendar is back to back to back to back,
Mm,
like it just becomes a life that is back to back to back to back versus a
yeah.
life that has space for breathing room and flow and space for you to not do nothing, which is a lot of what we have been talking about this year is surrendering the ideas that we gotta constantly be doing things. And I'm putting myself right now through a productivity detox because I have just been learned that everything has to be productive and what productivity means and how I show up to that. And I feel like because I've been on this path for this period of time and I've seen y'all go through this path over and over again, I'm aware that that's not needed. We don't need to be doing
Mhm,
all of that. That does not really bring us joy. Actually, it creates more confusion.
mhm.
Because then you feel like you got mad things to do all the time. And like that doesn't serve us. That
All
doesn't
the
serve our inner
time,
being.
all the time. Yeah, yeah.
It's really exhausting. Okay, y'all. Crystal, we're gonna do a final question for you. Um, I would love for you to sit with what kind of advice or what would you tell that version of yourself from 2018 and from 2022 last year. I can't believe that those are the dates we're saying now. About where you are, what would you tell her about this journey, what she can look forward to, and also about what it takes to get there, and if the society is a place where she wants to play at, you know? So sit with that. What will be your message to your number one message to your past self about this journey and whether, this is a space where she wants to play? While Krista does that, y'all, she even has notes. Look at me. Look at how much I've grown, y'all. I got notes on everything. They know I be coming out here with free flow everything and seeing what happens, which I still do. She very much goes with the flow. Listen, Krista's getting ready to share something with you that, she would have loved to hear when she was on this time of her journey, when she was beginning her process, and even last year when she decided to move things differently and to be supported in a time where she felt like things were going really well. And there's so much power in what she's going to share with you. And there's also a lot of power in being surrounded with people that want to see you win and want to see you thrive and want to see you grow. And that's the type of community that we are creating over at the Self Just Society. It's a very exciting place to be because we are looking at the joy of life, not just the parts of it that we don't like. And when we are able to do that, we can engage with others with more joy, with more love, with more compassion than we think is possible. And those things that used to feel like a sacrifice suddenly become things that we are aware that never were intended to make it to the next season of our lives. And that's what I desire for you because I know how powerful it is when we get emotionally grounded and we grow from an emotional perspective. The way we show up to our lives is completely different, whether we are being parents, friends, spouses, in our career, everything gets grounded in inner peace and that peace gets amplified. So if that's what you are focused on in 2024, if that's what you decide to bring to your life, I want to invite you to join us for a self-trust mastery call and to discuss if the self-trust society is the right place for you because we're going to be focused on exactly that. And we're going to have an amazing time doing it because you see your girl, she out here for the vibes. She's not out here to be on no struggle bus. I literally tell my clients, don't be getting on the struggle bus all the time because we wanted to get onto that bus because it's familiar. And I desire joy for you. And I know it's possible for you. I used to be depressed. I was depressed for 8 months in 27, 16 to 17. Now I have a type of peace that surpasses understanding, and that's possible for you too. So we're gonna go over to Crystal, and if you know that you want to work with me and that this is the space you want to play, book that self trust mastery level up session because it's gonna transform your life, whether you choose to work with me or not. Because I guarantee that you're not looking at yourself the way that I am looking at you. And when you see yourself how I see you, you're gonna begin to notice what's possible for you in a complete different perspective. All right. Let her get back on her director energy. Crystal's back here.
Glad to be back.
Okay, Crystal, tell us what would you share with that versions, those versions of yourself? What are the words of encouragement you will leave to them?
Okay. So to 2018 me. I'm still here. um, I would like to say that you were right, and you knew that you were right deep down inside, that you were not broken. And I'm proof of that today, that the decisions that you made were the best decisions for you at the time. And that, it doesn't change overnight, but you just keep at it and things will turn around. But again, all the effort that you put in, all the decisions that you made, the people and the support that you aligned yourself with, it was the right decision. And for my 2022 self, I would give a big thank you because of all the momentum you had and all the things that you put in place and all of the great habits that you started to build and adopt has really helped me to get through this year, 2023. I've been relying on, well, compared to my 2018 self, where I relied on other people and it was great, my 2023 self has heavily relied on my 2022 self. All the things the foundations, everything that I put in place, it's still playing out, and I'm able to support myself through this tough period that I have. And I'm getting back to the place to where we're now aligned and ready to take it to the next level. So to both of my past selves, you're doing great, or you've done great, you've done amazing things, and you'll only go further.
We're gonna add a final one. We just have to. What would you tell to your future self?
Oh God. Future self. Future self. Wow, girl, you got a lot of money. Like, Future self, I'm here. I'm here for you, girl. I'm here. I'm thinking about you, you know. I didn't used to think about you before, but now I am thinking about you with every decision that I make. I'm keeping you in mind for sure.
I can't wait till you watch this back and you see yourself this seeing this message from you next year. Like I'm already super excited for it because I know how much this this thing service. Like this messages we leave to ourselves are like, oh, it's gonna come at the perfect time when you watch it again. I am 1,000% sure of it. So we've had an amazing conversation, you guys. This was really, really powerful. Crystal, anything you would like, anything final you would want to say to anybody that's considering being a part of the Self Just Society and coming over here and playing with us? What would you share with that person?
I, Honestly, it's a great society. And Nori has been doing this way before it became trendy during the pandemic. Okay. So, yeah, it's a great society, a great group of people to be a part of. And like I said earlier, what she preaches, what she shares, it has been the same. She's not switched it up. So this isn't like I'm not gonna say a gimmick, but like these things, they're all about building yourself, building character. It's really what you put into it and what you want to get out of it. So, yourself is it's priceless, Investing in yourself, investing the time, energy, finances in yourself, it's always going to be worth it.
Y'all, this was such a vibe. Crystal, thank you for joining today. Thank you for sharing your story so openly and vulnerably. If that's a word. If it isn't, it's now. And for allowing people to be serviced through this conversation. Like, I know there's at least one of you watching right now that's feeling like, yeah, I'm not broken either. Like, I can move through these things, and my future self is looking out for me, and my past self is looking out for me, and the decisions she made were the best decisions for me. And sometimes it's so easy to judge ourselves and to be shoulda, coulda, woulda ourselves. And there's someone watching in this moment that's feeling like, you're right. I have been doing a good job of myself and I can continue going deeper and deeper into this. So I appreciate you always. I love you always. Thank you for continuing to be a part of this beautiful co creation we have going on. And I look forward to our 10th year anniversary, whatever that may be, whatever we might be doing at that time. Y'all, thank you for joining us today. Click on the link if
Yeah.
you want hearts with the vibes, and we'll see you guys soon. Hasta luego.
Bye.